Good afternoon. It is the usual time to wrap up some hard things in easy terms with Henry Keane on UATV channel for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. As you have probably noticed, on the invitation of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, US President Joe Biden paid an unannounced visit to Ukraine on February 20th, 2023. This was the first visit to Ukraine by a US president in nearly 15 years. History is made in front of our eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes bravery from the Ukrainian president to reject the ride and demand weapons from the US, and it takes the same bravery for the President of the United States to say yes and to come over to a country at war in person. Ukraine's and America's leaders held in-depth discussions about frontline developments and steps to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities. This historic visit to Kyiv reaffirmed the United States' unwavering commitment to Ukraine's democracy, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, as well as its determination to work with Ukraine to achieve victory. After the visit, United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced a new package of security assistance for Ukraine valued at $450 million, including ammunition for howitzers and the HIMARS rocket system, Javelin missiles, and air surveillance radars. The U.S. will also provide Kyiv with extra $10 million in emergency assistance to maintain Ukraine's energy infrastructure, Mr. Blinken has said. Also, a new wave of sanctions against individuals and companies that are trying to evade or backfill Russia's war machine will also be announced later this week. Mr. Zelensky said Ukraine's victory over Russia depended on resolve and that he saw such determination in Mr. Biden. We in Ukraine much appreciate the new military assistance package announced during the visit. We also look forward to moving forward on the issue of Ukrainian pilot training. And as always, Russia reacts, of course. Commenting on the trip, Russian Foreign Minister spokesperson Maria Zakharova said failure would befall those who, as she put it, sold their souls to, no, not the devil, to the Americans. Well, the devil is probably jealous because a God-fearing Russia these days fears the devil himself less than it fears Americans. Munich Security Conference 2023 was the first without Russia and Russians, proving the world will be better off without terrorist state representatives. Only full restoration of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity will fully restore security in Europe and stability worldwide. The solution is Zelensky's peace formula. Partners should accelerate and ensure the sustainability of arms deliveries. There is no alternative to speed because Ukrainians' lives are at stake. President Zelensky's diplomatic team has had one clear goal since last year: to unlock political decisions on the big seven of weapons. At the moment, we managed to unlock 6: anti-tank weaponry, artillery, MLIS, air defense tanks, and long-range missiles. We are convinced that we will be able to unlock the 7th type, aircrafts, which are crucial to protect Ukrainian sky. Because Ukrainian blue and peaceful sky is a litmus for the whole world. If it is so, all good. If not, then at some point havoc and destruction will come to you, dear world. Same way as it has happened to us. So defeating Russia is about more than victory and only for Ukraine and its people. It is about everyone's safety and the new global security architecture. Suggesting any territorial concessions to Ukraine equals suggesting undermining your own security and well-being. No peace plan can be based even on the slightest assumption that a square meter of sovereign Ukrainian territory can be conceded. If you ask how long this war will last, ask this question to yourself: how to help Ukraine win faster. The sooner and the more security assistance Ukraine gets now, the sooner the war will end, with a comprehensive, just and lasting peace. Neither Ukraine nor anybody else in the world, but Putin, of course, is interested in a protracted war of attrition that will increase casualties and demand additional enormous resources. Russia must change. With Putin's Russia, it is simply impossible to ensure any security, not only for Ukraine, but for the entire European continent. And you know what? Russia is changing. Something very Russian is already happening inside there. The owner of the Russian private military company Wagner accused Russia's defense minister and chief of general staff on Tuesday of starving his inmates' army in Ukraine of ammunition, which he said amounts to an attempt to destroy the force. Yevgeny Prigozhin, a millionaire with close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin, said in an emotional audio statement released through his spokespeople that direct resistance from the Russian military is nothing other than an attempt to destroy Wagner. Emotional statements from Prigozhin and his mercenaries highlighting long-brewing tensions between the Russian military and Wagner, which has unclear legal status, because Russian law prohibits private military companies.
Who do we need? It is clear that you are all great, you are all needed, but the ideal candidate is Ilya Muromets from Ryazan with strict regime, convicted not for the first time. He is 45 years old, strong, hardy, preferably served a sentence for 15 years or more, preferably ahead of 15 years or more, preferably more than once for murder, severe bodily injuries, robberies. If you beat the administration or cops, even better.
Well, it looks like a beginning of a beautiful cope, isn't it? Let's knock on wood and spit 3 times over the left shoulder so not to jinx it. Imagine I secretly come to your big house and I pay some members of your big family so they gather together and proclaim that they are an independent family now. And from now on, a dining room, the half of the kitchen, 7 windows, 30% of stairs and quarter of a toilet pod belongs to them. However, despite they're an independent family, they are not going to leave anywhere and will continue living in the same very house. This is exactly what Putin did to Lugansk and Donetsk. On February 22, 2022, Putin recognized the Lugansk and Donetsk republics. How has life changed there since then? Well, actually, this question is not a proper one. What life we're talking about should be the question. People were promised security and better life, but they received mobilization and regular shelling. Nothing promised has been delivered, and exactly why it should be a surprise. Everything is usual for Putin. Promises are made to be broken.
Not a single day goes by without Donbas communities coming under shelling attacks. The recently formed large military force makes use of attack drones, heavy equipment, missiles, artillery, the multiple rocket launchers. The killing of civilians, the blockade, the abuse of people, including children, women and the elderly, continues unabated. As we say, there is no end in sight to this.
Remember Putin said this is a few days before the full-scale invasion? That the reason for it is the murdering regime that is killing people and ruins everything it touches? Now I understand. It was not the reason for the Russian invasion, no, but the announcement of it. Russian forces are now attempting to tie down Ukrainian forces with fighting in the eastern Donbas region as Moscow assembles additional troops there for an unexpected offensive in the coming weeks, perhaps targeting the Lugansk region. Weeks of intense fighting continued to rage around the city of Bakhmut and the nearby towns of Soledar and Vuhledar. Moscow forces are located in the Donetsk region, which with neighboring Lugansk region makes up the Donbas region and industrial area bordering Russia.
The battles for the region are heating up. The Russians are throwing new units into the battle and eradicating our towns and villages. Pavlo Kirilenko, the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration.
In Lugansk, fellow governor Serhiy Gaidai said shelling there has subsided because the Russians have been saving ammunition for a large-scale offensive. Moscow appoints new officials from among Ukrainian turncoats or pro-Moscow separatists. Tens of thousands are deported to Russia, and those who remain are subjected to humiliation, torture, robbery, or arbitrary extrajudicial killing. And it is only in the areas that Moscow plans to rule directly that occupying forces and officials are instructed to treat locals with at least a shred of respect. In Kremlin speak, Ukraine had to be liberated from Ukrainian neo-Nazi regime, and the eastern and southern Ukrainian regions where the majority of the population speaks Russian needed a liberation from Ukrainian nationalists. In reality, in the occupied territories of Ukraine, Russia pursues 3 different policies, and here is how this all looks like. That is how the Russian future looks like. This is what Russia brings to the places it comes. This is what it wants for Ukraine. Liberation is the key word the Kremlin uses when describing what it calls the special operation in Ukraine. It doesn't matter what Kremlin calls it. It always is a destruction, war, death, torture, and scorched earth. A population is seen as an unnecessary social burden. Moscow sends younger residents of the Donbas to Russia to repopulate its regions with low birth rates, bad local economies, and excessive alcoholism and crime. So whatever it is, however it is, this way or the other, if any slogan should be created for Donbas region under Russian occupation as a reflection of the reality that they have created there, or the slogan for the Russian occupiers as a warning for what awaits for them on our land, for what they have done on it, then the most precise version could have sound like, "Welcome to hell." It was Henry Keane on UATV channel explaining some hard things in easy terms for you, dear world, directly from Ukraine. Stay safe and tuned for more.